Hello, my audience. Greetings, evening, morning, where I am early. So, hang on, I need to put the AC on, okay? There's a little hot in here where I am. That's the AC on. Don't mind that, okay? Okay, that's much better. So, excuse me. The AC's not really working. I'm going to do switch the door cracked open a little bit. Hang on. Okay. So I'm reviewing Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange sequel called Multiverse of Madness. I give both a 6 out of 10 for the mediocre train wreck movies they are. I call these movies stupid beyond balls, like you need a doggy bag to throw up in after you're exposed to the stupid nonsense. So, I guess I like this as much as Adam Sandler's Grown Ups movies 1 and 2. The Doctor Strange movies is what I'm trying to say. They're as bad as the worst Adam Sandler movies. Not the better ones. And, Grown Ups 2 and Grown Ups 1 are definitely one of his weaker films. And, Multiverse of Madness is not far off in terms of quality storytelling. Neither is the first one compared to the Grown Ups franchise that Adam Sandler started and did. Somewhere there's a hell where this movie's saga plays on loop, torturing people, screaming for all eternity. Somehow, there might be a hell where that might actually be a torture of watching Doctor Strange movies with Benedict Cumberbatch. Why couldn't we get a sequel to Matthew Broderick's Inspector Gadget again, with Matthew Broderick as Inspector Gadget for Inspector Gadget 2? Instead of a loose reboot sequel for Inspector Gadget 2? That's what this movie, Doctor Strange, makes me think sometimes. Why couldn't we get a Mortal Kombat 3? From the 90s flick? Why couldn't we get a third installment to Mortal Kombat Annihilation? Or a fourth installment to Turtles 3? Or a fifth installment to Christopher Reeve's franchise of Superman? I blame the audience. Why we can't have nice things. Because the point is, these movies made money. At least the first one did. And second one, I think, made a lot. Wasn't one of the flops one, if I remember correctly. The sequel to Doctor Strange wasn't a flop. But it wasn't as good as the first one. It wasn't better than the first one. Was it worse? Yeah. Technically on a scale, story level, yeah. And everything's just... And, there's really not much to these movies, pieces of, movies of Doctor Strange 1 and 2. Outside some cool visuals in here and there, but, bland, uninvested characters I couldn't get good stats about. Not even Strange himself. And he doesn't stay the Source is Supreme for long. That gets taken away in the sequel due to the events of Infinite Wars explained in the sequel to Doctor Strange 2. But he keeps the mantle in every other universe within the lore of 616 Multiverse live action for some reason. It's explained saying he gets the mantle in every other universe. Source is Supreme, blah blah blah. So only to prove this is the worst representation of Doctor Strange incarnated, I think, brought you could ever do with. You know, there's something saying when I could take the live action 70s low budget straight to video release of Doctor Strange more serious, and I thought it was a better movie overall than the one with Benedict Cumberbatch started as Doctor Strange. And I honestly thought the original Doctor Strange movie was more faithful to the source material. At least the Asian one looks like the Asian one from the comics. The guy that trained Strange in becoming a sorcerer. You know, it's like, that's just, and then they race, gender, swap him, and then also de-age him to be a younger person. Besides just changing the Agent 1 sex, they also made him younger than what he should look. Instead of looking like an elderly person, he looks like a girl that looks more to middle age. That's not as old as elderly. It's just stupid. Changing source material. But why do I care? They killed that bitch off anyway, blah blah blah. In the first one, who cares? Although she appears in Endgame for a brief cameo role. Blah blah blah, to interact with Bruce Banner, blah blah blah, known as Small Call, blah blah blah, in Endgame, blah blah blah. Multiverse paradox, explaining scenario, consequence, blah blah blah, who cares? It's never actually happens. Consequences, multiverse shenanigans. This is that we have to wait till the Multiverse of Madness when we first get brief moments of collapsing multiverse shit and bullshit and all the bullshit we got visually is the best something to get to offer us, the audience. And I give this movie, Doctor Strange 1 and 2, a 6 out of 10. Goodbye. Subscribe to my content, please. Toodles. Bye. I pressed the pause button, not the off button.